court today.
Reputation.
Reputation.
So instead, we'll talk about Taylor Swift's
Reputation.
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 So instead, we'll talk about Taylor Swift's
Reputation.
reputation. Taylor Swift's
Reputation.
So instead, we'll talk about Taylor Swift's
Reputation.
Baby, let the games begin.
Taylor Swift has achieved so much with her life. I'm sure we all can agree how successful she has become. Check out her 10 rules so you can maybe adopt some for yourself.
I'd get kind of called in front of a group of people who have known me and worked with me for years, who would sit down and say, "Are you sure you want to call the album 1989? We think it's a weird title. Are you sure that you want to put an album cover out that has less than half of your face on it? Are you positive that you want to take a genre that you have that cemented yourself in and completely switch to a new one that you are a newcomer to?" And answering all those questions with "yes, I'm sure," that was, I think, something that really frustrated me at the time. Like, guys, don't you understand? I promise this is what I'm dying to do.
You can only hope that as a writer you start trying different things and you try different chords or different structures of songs, different beats that you've never really explored that path before. You know, and I think having always been a writer first, I'm obsessed with the syncopation of the way that words sound when they're said a certain way. And once I've kind of done something once, I always want to go to a different direction and never repeat myself. So as a writer, I think that I've always hoped that my music would constantly be changing, because you never want to make the same album twice, the same song twice. And you know, my greatest hope has been that as I grow, my fans will grow up with me, and as I change and my life changes, my music will change as well. So wish me luck there. Because I wanted, you know, I can tell them all I want. Be yourself. It doesn't matter if people think you're sexy or edgy or cool. But if I don't lead by example, then I'm not actually conveying that message fully. So with this video, like, it's not a sexy video, but it conveys a message I really want to get across to girls, that, like, if that's not your thing, you don't have to try to be like everyone else. The only time in the last couple of years that I knew, as soon as we finished a song, that it was sort of a, like, I hate to say like game changer, but that it was sort of a next level situation, was when I finished Shake It Off. But I wanted to be sure. So that was the very end of the recording process. I finished Shake It Off and I knew I was done with the record. And I flew back to Nashville, had a bunch of label people who I trust and a bunch of management who I trust, and my mom and dad sit in my parents' living room, and I played them the full record, and I didn't tell them anything about how I thought I had written the first single. I didn't tell them anything like, you gotta listen for track 8, Shake It Off is the one, I'm telling you. But when that song came on and halfway through, all of them look at me and go, this is the one. It was such a validating feeling, because I thought I knew, and I was so sure I knew, and then it turned out I did know. I have a lot of different epiphanies. I always have different ideas as to, like, ooh, you know, this would be a good idea. And one summer I was at the shore. We used to spend our summers in Stone Harbor, New Jersey, and all my friends were back in Pennsylvania, and so I had nothing to do. And so I had this epiphany: I'm going to be a novelist, and I'm going to write novels, and that's going to be my career path. So I would write different chapters of this book and send them back to my friends, and I'd write them into the book under different names, but totally describe their personalities. And it was a really fun way to spend the summer. And my parents were so frustrated because I would never go outside. I'd just be like locked in this little study with my computer. But I've always been a writer first. It's my favorite thing is how you can convey a thought or a story or completely describe a character or a situation through words and the right combination of words. And the whole process of editing and re-editing and rethinking and imagining, and you get these little mini just epiphany ideas that come to you. And I think that that's what I loved about writing the novel, and that's what I love about there doesn't have to be loneliness in being alone, and you can find romance in your life even if you aren't involved in a romance. Life can be beautiful and spontaneous and surprising and romantic and magical without you having some love affair happening. And you can replace all of those feelings you used to have when you were enamored with someone with being enamored with your friends and enamored with learning new things and challenging yourself and living your life on your own terms. And I never understood it when people would say, oh, in your 20s, you just need to be alone. And I never quite got it because they would never explain to me that it's so important to define yourself on your own terms. You think about it when you're in love, that person's opinion affects your opinions. And everything you do goes through this filter of how would they feel about it. Because if you're a caring person and you're in love, then that's what you do. But there's something really wonderful about changing your life if you want to, cutting your hair short if you want to, moving to New York if you want to, changing directions of your entire creative outlook if you want to, and having it only be on your own terms. But I don't know what I'll do after this album. And I think that's great. It's actually, I tell myself, it's actually really ungrateful to just assume that you have 20 years. Be stoked that you have today. Lover. In the last 10 years, I have watched as women in this industry are criticized and measured up to each other and picked at for their bodies, their romantic lives, their fashion. Or have you ever heard someone say about a male artist, I really like his songs, but I don't know what it is. There's just something about him I don't like. No, that criticism is reserved for us. But I've learned that the difference between those who can continue to create in that climate usually comes down to this: who lets that scrutiny break them and who just keeps making art. That the only way forward is forward motion. That we shouldn't let obstacles like criticism slow down the creative forces that drive us.
Let those decisions be your decisions. Don't let them be some man in a suit's decisions or some A&R guy wearing a beanie. Whether it's what you decide to wear, how you feel confident on stage, what you want your persona to be, what you want to stand for, what you want to stand up for. And most of all, creatively, I think you should steer the ship. At the end of the day, you just have to try to find a way to stay sane. There's a balance to it all, and I have bad days where I focus on it, and I feel like there's nothing that I do that's right, and no matter how hard I try, you're gonna have people that just can't find one good thing about you. But focusing on those people is the quickest way to lead an unhappy life.
When you start to compare yourself to other people, please change the channel in your mind to something else. Because I think that when it comes to how we see ourselves, other people are really mean, but we're really mean to ourselves. And so it's easy to get confused. And when you do get confused, and you start feeling like you're not special or you're not different, or you have nothing important to say. We all feel like that sometimes. But I want you to do right now, if there's one thing you remember from tonight, remember what I'm about to say. You need to look into the mirror in the morning and not tell yourself that you're not special, or you're not good enough, you're not pretty, or you're not awesome. I'm gonna tell you right now the things you actually are not, okay? These are the things you really are not. You are not the opinion of somebody who doesn't know you. You are not damaged goods just because you've made mistakes in your life. You are not going nowhere just because you haven't gotten where you want to go yet. Those are the things you actually are not. Now, I want to tell you what you are. You are your own definition of beautiful and worthwhile. That's what you are. And you are someone who is wiser because you made mistakes. Not damaged, wiser.
Hopefully, you can understand success leaves clues, and you might worship Taylor Swift, you might hate her. We all can agree that her level of success is something we might want to live up to. Look at her rules and see if you want to adopt some, and let me know in the comments below which rules resonate with you most and which ones are you going to start implementing in your life.